Good evening. Tonight, federal government launches COVID-19 vaccination strategy and electronic data management system ahead of delivery of first batch of COVAX AstraZeneca vaccine. Amidst concerns over rising insecurity in the country, prominent Nigerians revisit the nation's governance challenges. And in Abuja, 10 people killed in 3 local government areas in Kaduna. State government slams persons suspected to be jeopardizing efforts at ending spate of attacks. And former French President Nicolas Sarkozy sentenced to 3 years in jail for corruption. Plus, you'll see sports, business and later international news from our London studios. On business news tonight, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala formally takes over as Director General of the World Trade Organization, ending leadership void for the global trade body.
On sports news tonight, MFMFC claim a 5th league win over Nasarawa United in all 7 meetings in the Nigeria Professional Football League clash in Lagos.
And from Abuja, former Minister of Finance Nenadi Usman demands 5 billion naira from the police over the killing of her niece at the National Human Rights Commission Independent Investigative Panel.
Less than 24 hours to the delivery of the first batch of the COVAX COVID-19 vaccines to Nigeria, the federal government today rolled out a special strategy to track the vaccination process in the country. The blueprint, codenamed TEACH, also hopes to enable government to have a reach electronic database of all eligible citizens for vaccination. Meanwhile, the WHO country representative, Mr. Walter Mulombo, is warning against any form of complacency regarding other interventions, saying the country needs a combination of vaccines and these strategies to attain the needed immunity.
The country representative of the WHO, the Minister of Health and other critical stakeholders in the health sector are in this hall to launch a special COVID-19 vaccination strategy, which the government says will help keep track of the vaccination process. The strategy, codenamed TEACH, also has an electronic portal for the registration of all eligible citizens. The government says it's guided by an in-house vaccination experience as well as those of other countries that have already rolled out COVID-19 vaccines.
In the last 10, 20 years, we've had an average of 6 to 8 campaigns every year. Now that experience is what we're bringing to bear, and that experience is what we're combining with the experiences that we've seen from developed countries to roll out a unique strategy for Nigerians. So today, it is my honor and a privilege to roll out the TEACH strategy. What we have done with the TEACH strategy is really to combine the first world approaches with our context in terms of our experiences with campaigns.
Nigeria expects the arrival of about 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, which is the first batch of the 16 million doses from the COVAX facility. Ahead of the rollout, the WHO is warning against complacency.
It was rightly said, this year is about COVID-19 vaccine. But I would like to emphasize that vaccine alone will not do it. We will need to continue to adhere to public health and social measures until such time that we reach enough coverage to generate herd immunity.
As the preparations for the rollout of these vaccines gain momentum, concerns about how to prevent fake vaccines from getting into the market, as well as how to handle possible reactions from recipients, is also addressed here.
Our work just started because we're going to do track and trace of all these vaccines that are coming in to ensure there is no falsification during the supply chain.
You have to sign what you call an indemnification, which means that the producer will not be necessarily held responsible for whatever the effects are. If there are vaccines administered through correct government portals, vaccines with a recognized batch number, Government will stand up for every treatment that follows it. You will not be charged for it. Government will make sure that you are nursed to good health.
The government says the expected first batch of 4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines will be administered on frontline health workers, security personnel, and politicians who are holding critical offices, as others will have to wait for more vaccines from COVAX and other supply channels.
Well, health workers are to be given priority as the first beneficiaries of the COVID-19 vaccine when the government begins inoculation on Friday, March the 5th. Well, speaking at today's briefing of the task force, the executive director, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, explains that Nigeria's first vaccination sites will be set up at the National Hospital, Abuja. Our correspondent Gloria Mozoke reports.
Further to the clearance by NAFDAC, the Presidential Task Force, the Federal Ministry of Health, NPHCDA, and strategic leaders will be at the treatment center of the National Hospital on Friday, March 5th, 2021, where the first vaccination site will be set up to commence the vaccination of the frontline health workers and support staff. On Saturday, March the 6th, key strategic leaders will receive the first dose of the vaccine. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force will be engaging with Mr. President, the Vice President, and strategic leaders to get an exact date for when their vaccination will be taken publicly. On Monday, March 8, 2021, more vaccination sites will have been set up at designated locations such as the National Assembly Clinic, the State House Clinic, and the Federal Medical Center, JABI, where strategic leaders such as the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the PTF, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Attorney General of the Federation, Inspector General of Police, the ministers and ministers of state, senators, House of Representatives, traditional leaders, religious leaders will be vaccinated. After this launch and the initial rollout phase, vaccine distribution to the states for the phase 1 vaccination process will begin.
Moving on to other stories, concern over the security crisis in the country is growing, with some prominent Nigerians expressing dissatisfaction with the government's approach to resolving it. Among them is the former governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, who is criticizing the payment of ransom to kidnappers in the country. He and others made their views known during the launch of the autobiography of the Senate Minority Leader, Naya Abaribe, in the nation's capital.
Courage, they say, is the father of success. And courageous is a word which some of these guests describe Senator Naya Abaribe, who is launching his autobiography in Abuja. The book, titled Made in Aba, looks at the life of Senator Abaribe, his career trajectory and foray into politics, first as Deputy Governor of Abia State and then a federal lawmaker.
Made in Aba reflects not only the personal struggles of Abaribe, it captures, even if only in brief, critical aspects of Nigerian history.
Given a glimpse of the life of Senator Abaribe, the book also speaks about the trial of nation building.
I also tried to capture that there was a Nigeria where it said in our former anthem that though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. What we have done is that we have a big Nigeria that has continually regressed, and now all of us are into our ethnic enclaves. And if you don't go to your ethnic enclave, you won't be able to survive in Nigeria today.
In our country, we are not managing to have rational public conversation. We just trade insults. And this has not enabled us to articulate a path forward for our country.
The challenge of having rational public conversations, which Professor Patutomi talks about, resonates with some guests at the event, just as some others say they're increasingly worried about the security problems in the country and the federal government's approach to addressing it.
We just throw words at each other and completely miss the issues that should affect the nation.
Everybody psychologically has gone back to his village. You're either Fulani or Hausa or Igbo and whatever it is. I think the government needs to do something major to get a handle on this situation. The strategy of silence in the face of outrageous, indescribable crimes cannot work.
It's unacceptable. The best thing for you is to start creating jobs. And creating jobs is to support small businesses, support those who are doing nothing. You know what you're doing by paying ransom? It's the same thing that we're doing in government. People are making money without being productive. So you're actually creating an anarchy.
There are no easy solutions to the challenges troubling the country. But according to some of the attendees here, a good place to start would be for Nigerians to have honest and frank conversations devoid of ethnic sentiments on the way forward. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
The security situation in the northern part of the country is still a concern, and Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State today expanded the special security meeting in the state over the rising threat of banditry. According to the governor, bandits recently dislodged from the western zone of the state have regrouped in some communities in 3 local government areas. He adds that the influx of herders from the southwest and the recent abduction of school children necessitated the meeting, which had all security heads, traditional rulers and education stakeholders present.
From what we have seen so far, there are renewed activities of these dislodged bandits. We had these bandits that were at Utu in total local government area that were recently dislodged. Thanks to all our security agencies for the good work that you have done to dislodge them. Unfortunately, a lot of them being members of Darul Salam that have turned into Boko Haram are now or have now actually regrouped. I've also seen what is happening with school children, where school children were originally from the beginning kidnapped in Borno State, then it moved to Kazina, it moved to Zamfara, came to Niger, and I strongly believe that even though we see it returning back to Zamfara, we shouldn't be taken off guard. We should be more proactive. In addition to that, for the watch out, we have also engaged some security patrol, especially for the military.
From Nasarawa to Katsina State, where at least 9 bandits have been killed in a joint operation by police and the military on some bandit camps in Safana local government area of the state. Police authorities in the state say 10 suspects were also arrested in connection with banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling and armed robbery. 3 of the suspects are said to be part of a notorious syndicate and were arrested with a sum of 3.6 million naira paid to them as ransom. 9 motorcycles, 1 AK-47 rifle, rounds of ammunition were also recovered from the bandits. In part 2, after the break, we have more on bandits attack 3 villages in Kaduna State, plus the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, expresses worry over a number of out-of-school children in Nigeria and attacks on schools. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal government launches COVID-19 vaccination strategy and electronic data management system ahead of delivery of first batch of COVAX AstraZeneca vaccine. Amidst concerns over rising insecurity in the country, prominent Nigerians revisit the nation's governance challenges in Abuja. 10 people killed in 3 local government areas in Kaduna, a state government's lands. Persons suspected to be jeopardizing efforts at ending spate of attacks. And former French President Nicolas Sarkozy sentenced to 3 years in jail for corruption. Bandits struck again today in Kaduna State, where no fewer than 10 people were killed in an attack on 3 villages in Zango Kataf and Chikun local government areas of the state. The latest incident comes barely 24 hours after 7 people were killed by bandits in Igabi and Kajuru local government areas of the state. According to the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan, the bandits attacked Kumin Gundu village in Zango Kataf local government and killed 5 people. In addition, they also burnt down 10 houses, 2 motorcycles, 50 bags of ginger, while some dry season farmers lost water pumping machines and other valuables around the Zango urban general area. Mr. Aruwan explains that some survivors of the attack are recuperating in hospital while certain rescue operations are in progress. He also speaks on the efforts of the government to secure the state, noting that some persons are working against the peace initiative.
There are people who are working assiduously against the peace-building initiative. So they will equally leave no stone unturned in order to ensure that what government and critical stakeholders are sacrificing for is not realistic. But then we will not relent. We will continue to pursue the peace-building initiative vigorously. Kaduna State is a vast state. It's about 46,000 square kilometers. So certainly you have ungoverned space, and like you know, it is not possible to have security operatives in all the nook and crannies of the state. But then, how do you expect Kaduna State government to negotiate with people who will cross over to Kaduna State from neighboring states, attack communities, killed, raped, kidnapped, disrupt farming activities, collapsing the local economy? On what basis do you now negotiate with them? Because there's nothing on the table. There must be something on the table. But for instance, there are communities that are usually attacked as a result of being profiled or because they share ethnic affinity with bandits or thereabout. If there's a problem there, you can reach out to them. And we've been doing that, insisting that on no basis, there is no justification for a community to come under attack simply because bandits that share same ethnic affinity with them carried out or perpetrated criminal activity somewhere. There's no justification.
Meanwhile, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, is expressing worry over the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Nigeria's country representative of UNICEF, Peter Hawkins, describes the various attacks on school children as putting learning in crisis in the country. He was speaking during the commissioning of the American Window at the Slum to School Innovation Hub in Lagos.
We at UNICEF are partnering Slum to School, and we hope that in this partnership we'll be able to access 550,000 children through the work that Slum to School are able to do to expand that learning for children, whether they're out of school, in school, or part of the digital divide or on the other side of the digital divide, making learning more accessible to children wherever they are. UNICEF is very concerned about insecurity and the recent abductions that have taken place in Niger State, Katsina and in Zamfara. Enough is enough. These children are innocent victims of someone else's conflict, someone else's aspiration. We must take action to ensure that all children feel safe at school. For those girls who have been abducted, their safe return to their homes and the support that they need for psychosocial care.
The State Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, on her part, is excited at the opportunities available for both countries to learn from each other, just as the chairperson board of the Slum to School Africa, Alero Aida Otobo, is upbeat about the future of the project.
Slum to School must impact policy. It must change the narrative of education in Nigeria. It must enable us to bring in more than 13 million children into schools. And it's not by replicating Slum to School. It's by impacting policy. 550,000 children are going to be impacted across states in the north. I'm really thrilled and overjoyed.
We currently have 6 American spaces in southern Nigeria, and today we're happy to be opening the very first Windows on America in space in southern Nigeria here today. In the next few months, we will follow on with 7 additional new windows on America in southern Nigeria, but we won't forget the north. We will get them there too. This window will serve as a community center where young people develop their ideas as well as their leadership and entrepreneurship skills through programs and workshops designed especially for them. For those who might be interested in studying in the United States, there are resources at the space that will help you figure out the path to study at a U.S. university. And I hope that people will take advantage of this free service at this Window on America, which is your place, the community's place for engagement, for education and empowerment.
In the meantime, the federal government is assuring everyone that all necessary steps are being taken to ensure the security of lives and property in the country, particularly schools. Speaking to State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, explains that the government is working to ensure that there is no new case of abductions in schools across the country. The Aviation Minister had earlier led a federal government delegation to Zamfara State to assess the developments and sympathise with the government following the abduction of over 300 girls from the Government Girls Science Secondary School, Jengebe.
The government of President Muhammadu Buhari has done everything possible to ensure safe schools. It has recently rejigged the national security architecture, and it's an ongoing exercise. And everything that is made possible, is possible to stop this, government is putting it in place. And by the special grace of God, it should be the last this country will see. Yes, there may be possibility that some people will try to do it to embarrass government. But government has the resources to continue to give the best in terms of security in this country. And we think and we hope, by the special grace of God, that this will be the last that we'll see in this country. The government has put things in place to ensure safe schools in partnership with the subnationals, in partnership with the people that are localized in those environments, including intelligence gathering, information gathering, and then supply of equipment and weapons and so on and so forth, training and retraining of security personnel, etc. Everything possible, everything that is humanly possible by any government to put in place to ensure security of lives and property is being put together to ensure that this doesn't happen. And like I said, it's an ongoing thing, and government is committed to it and will continue to do so.
Well, let's take you to our Abuja studios where Linda Kimbe is standing by with more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Millicent. Welcome to Abuja. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arraigned a former Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, Benjamin Dickey, over an alleged 1 billion naira gratification charge. But he pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts read to him and his company before Justice Yusuf Halilu of the FCT High Court. Mr. Diki allegedly received about ₦1 billion gratification from Bestworth Insurance Brokers. This is for his alleged role in facilitating the approval of outstanding insurance premiums and claims of deceased and incapacitated staff of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria. Justice Halilu ordered the remand of the defendant in Suleja Correctional Center and adjourned till March the 3rd for consideration of bail application. Meanwhile, a former chairman of a defunct pension reform task team, Mr. Abdul Rashid Maina, has opened his defense in a case of alleged money laundering preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Mr. Maina opened his defense by presenting a witness, Ngozika Ihoma, a consultant whose firm carried out the biometric verification of pensioners in the country between 2010 and 2011. The witness told the court that prior to the biometric capture, the sum of 1.5 billion naira was paid monthly as police pension, but upon completion of the exercise, the pension payments dropped to 466 million naira. Mr. Ihoma further informed the court that the PRTT, headed by Mr. Maina, had by November 2011 recovered the sum of 181 billion naira in pension fund surplus, which was subsequently warehoused at the Central Bank of Nigeria by the EFCC. After listening to the evidence of Mr. Ihoma, the trial judge, Justice Okonabang, adjourned further trial to Tuesday, March the 2nd, to enable the witness conclude his testimony. When the News at 10 returns, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala formally takes over as Director General of the World Trade Organization in Geneva. That's in business news. Stay with us. Welcome back to the News at 10, live from Abuja. A former Minister of Finance, Senator Nenadi Usman, is demanding for 5 billion naira compensation from the police over the killing of her niece on October the 13th, 2018. The minister, who is a joint petitioner in the case of alleged extrajudicial killing, told the National Human Rights Commission Independent Investigative Panel that her niece was murdered by a police officer in the Katampe area of Abuja. Police lawyer James Idachaba, however, argues that the police has played its part by dismissing the said officer and ensuring his eventual conviction by an Abuja High Court, which sentenced him to 16 years in prison.
It is a tense atmosphere as the mother of the late Anita Akapson, a graduate of Kent University, United Kingdom, narrates her ordeal over the death of her daughter before the National Human Rights Commission Independent Investigative Panel.
On the 13th of October 2018, we got a call from my eldest daughter that Anita, my daughter, was shot by the police. And subsequently, she died as a result of the gun wounds. After demobilizing her, he went straight to the door of her car and shot at her at close range.
Although the officer responsible for the death of Anita Akapson has been convicted and sentenced to 16 years in jail, the family is demanding 5 billion naira as compensation.
No amount of money can pay or compensate for her. I have come to the panel to demand a compensation to assuage the grief, the trauma, and the pain the family has been going through.
Another petitioner narrates how he paid 2 million naira to secure his freedom after the police allegedly withdrew 1.4 million naira from his account while he was in detention.
After seeing the CP, I paid 2 million to do that, to get free, because it was a murder case already. So when after seeing the CP, I couldn't remember the captain again because I wanted to leave the scene completely. Midnight, I began to see this door. In the same day, sir. And the door was in Makurdi, between Makurdi and Lafia. For 1.4, I don't, because when they detained me, they were collecting, I was giving them instruction to go and collect money for me, because I had to be paying the food I buy for armed robbers in the cell.
For the Asisio family of Warri in Delta State, it's a case of a family squabble gone awry. A member of the family is alleging unlawful occupation of their family property using the police.
The petition to this body, the human rights body, is just to alert the world, the people of Nigeria, that this is an SOS, that we are being hounded by the Nigerian police, directed by my elder brother, Chief Yoma Esiso. That there's no resting place, like we're hounded.
After listening to the petitions, the panel adjourned the hearing of the petition by Mrs. Esther Akapson and Senator Nenadi Usman indefinitely.
No fewer than 10 policemen in the convoy of Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed have been injured in an accident during the inspection of the 60 kilometers Berga Yelwan Duguri Road in the local government area. One of the vehicles in the convoy, which had about 16 police officers in it, veered off the road and somersaulted after losing control. Our correspondent reports that the incident happened as a result of the huge dust which blocked the driver's view. All the affected security personnel have been taken to the Bununi General Hospital in Tafawa Balewa local government area of the state for treatment. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Linda. Well, let's take you to River State, where the government has started another round of project commissioning with the inauguration of a flyover at the popular Rumokoro Junction in Obiakpo local government area. This is after the government commissioned over 16 roads and a jetty in December 2020 and January this year. Governor Nyesom Wike at the project commissioning, which was performed by the former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, says he will stop at nothing to deliver quality projects to his people.
By OCJ, by the governor, and by others.
It's the second on the schedule of completed flyovers to be commissioned by the Wike-led administration as part of its urban renewal and regeneration agenda in River State. The Okoro-Nodo flyover at the popular Rumokoro Junction is expected to ease traffic for millions of commuters.
The Okoro-Nodo flyover measures 642.75 meters from ramp to ramp. 360 meters of that being the suspended section. The transition area from the 4-lane East-West Road to the 8 lanes of the bridge project measures 236.8 meters. This flyover, which is a wonderful sight to behold at night, is lit with 68 street light poles. 26 of those are single arm and 42 are double arm, giving you 110 numbers of 250 watt luminaires, not forgetting the 2 bulkhead luminaires under the bridge.
As a tradition by the administration, a former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, is in town with his wife, who incidentally hails from River State, to commission the project. He hails Governor Wike's attitudeness in project's delivery.
Leadership is not about winning elections. Leadership is about taking people to a destination. You may not always agree with Governor Wike at the onset. Later on, you'll find the wisdom of his stance, but you are never in doubt where he stands on any issue, and that is leadership.
For the governor, the 642 meters flyover, completed in 14 instead of 16 months, is a promise kept for the good of the people, as he warns against trading on the overhead bypass.
Our people don't deserve the least, they deserve the best, and that is why I will do everything I can to give them the best. Let me just tell you, the primary ruler of Okoro-Nodo, Rumokoro, the primary ruler of Rumokoro, tell your youths, tell your citizens who are always collecting money here, I will show them pepper here. I have told you, and I'm going to do it. We cannot spend this money here and you turn this place as a market. I will not accept that.
As the state government commissions more projects in the week and signed a contract for 2 new flyovers, commuting around the ever-busy Rumokoro Junction will be eased, even at night, with the light fittings.
And to Ebonyi State, where suspected assailants have again attacked another police station there, this time in Izzi local government area of the state. The details of the attack are still sketchy. Our correspondent gathered that the attack took place around 1 a.m. when the attackers reportedly set the building ablaze with fire bombs. The State Police Commissioner, Aliyu Garba, confirmed the incident, noting that no casualty was recorded in the attack and that the fire did minimal damage to the station. He adds that the command is taking steps to protect police facilities and personnel in the state. In January, 3 policemen were killed in an attack on the Onweke police station in Ezza South local government area of the state, while the police divisional headquarters in Usu, Onitsha local government area was also burnt by hoodlums, who also torched 4 patrol vans in February. Let's bring you some business news. Here's Anne Waldo.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The new Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has assumed office today, March the 1st, 2021. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, who is the first woman, an African, to lead the global trade body, is hitting the ground running on her first day at the WTO in Geneva. She had spent 25 years at the World Bank as its managing director, Nigeria's former finance and foreign minister, before being appointed by the WTO's 164 members on February the 15th, after some resistance from the former U.S. President Donald Trump. Let's talk about global oil demand. It is expected to reach 100 million barrels by the year 2025, and that's according to forecast by leading management consultancy firm McKinsey & Company. In its review for the year 2020 and the latest outlook for the year 2021, the US-based firm says demand for crude has partially recovered since April 2020, but it still ended the year approximately 9 million barrels per day, and that's below the 2019 level, while continued COVID-19 related lockdown measures in January this year has kept it around 6 million barrels lower. However, the company explains that the demand will deepen and it will depend on the duration of lockdowns and the pace of global GDP recovery. Meanwhile, McKinsey mentions that current intervention by OPEC Plus will be sufficient to help balance the market this year, with prices remaining at a sustained level between $50 to $55 per barrel over the next 4 years. Let's talk about Nigeria's local currency. The Naira has strengthened by 0.26% to 409.20 against the dollar. This happened today as an investors and exporters forex window. And this is coming after the Central Bank of Nigeria admitted that it has devalued the local currency for the 3rd time in order to adjust for the decrease in supply of foreign exchange. Meanwhile, the Naira closed flat against the US dollar at the parallel market at 482. And talking about markets, let's go to the local stock market, where the first day of the trading week has begun, and on a positive side, regaining about 69 billion from the loss recorded on Friday. Eni John Mekwa has the details for us.
Thank you so much and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. Well, after 4 bearish weeks, the bull returned to the equities market on the first trading session in the month of March, hoping that its dominance will last as more companies release their full year 2020 earnings. For today, MTN Nigeria, Dangote Sugar, UACN and Eternal Oil released theirs. At the end of today's trading session, the all-share index rose by 0.33%. Well, it's still in the 39,000 level, while the market cap rose by 108 billion naira. Activity level was mostly higher today compared to Friday's session, as volume stood at 543.9 million units traded in over 4,600 deals. Now, on the flip side, value was lower, 1.8 billion naira. Monday's gains were largely driven by industrial goods, as Boa Cement rose by almost 4%. The banking sector also posted gains, while other counters we track were in the red. Now, Wema Bank, Zenith Bank, as well as Transcorp were the most traded stocks for the day. Analysts expect intermittent profit-taking activities to continue due to lingering concerns about yield elevation in the fixed income market. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
That's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy sentenced to 3 years in jail for corruption, and more from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. And former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been found guilty of trying to bribe a judge and of influence peddling. He has also been handed a 3-year jail term with 2 years suspended. The 66-year-old was convicted of trying to bribe a judge in 2014 after he left office. Well, here's Simon Pusey with more international news and Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Myanmar's deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been charged with additional criminal offences as protesters have been marching in defiance of a crackdown by security forces.
Prosecution side added 2 more cases on Aung San Suu Kyi.
An additional charge of prohibiting the publication of information that may cause fear or disrupt public tranquility, and a charge relating to her alleged ownership of walkie-talkies have been added to the previous ones. The violent clashes between the armed forces and the protesters that have left 18 dead over the weekend have not stopped, as Yangon police can be seen firing tear gas and rubber bullets at demonstrators. The UN Human Rights Office has said they strongly condemn the escalating violence and has called on the military to immediately halt the use of force against peaceful protesters. Hundreds of people have gathered outside a Hong Kong court ahead of a hearing for 47 democracy activists charged with conspiracy to commit subversion. The group has been charged under the Beijing-imposed national security law in the largest single crackdown on the democratic opposition by authorities. The activists have been accused of organising and participating in an unofficial primary election last July. Former US President Donald Trump has hinted at a possible run for president again in 2024 in his first major appearance since leaving the White House nearly 6 weeks ago.
Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay?
At the Conservative Political Action Conference, the country's largest annual gathering of Republicans and Conservatives, Mr. Trump also declared the Republican Party is united and has said he has no plans to try to launch a third party. Hundreds of Trump supporters gathered outside the event and held a makeshift rally in his honour. The former French President Nicolas Sarkozy and 2 former associates have been sentenced to 3 years in jail for corruption. The 66-year-old was found guilty of trying to bribe a magistrate by offering a prestigious job in Monaco in return for information about a criminal inquiry into his political party. Sarkozy's ex-lawyer got the same sentence. In the ruling, the judge said Sarkozy could serve house arrest with an electronic tag. The ex-president is expected to appeal. The fiancé of murdered Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi has called for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to be punished after a US intelligence report found he had approved the killing. Hatis Cengiz has said the Crown Prince should be punished without delay. Mr. Khashoggi, a US resident who wrote opinion columns for the Washington Post criticizing Saudi policies, was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in 2018.
We are going to hold them accountable for human rights abuses, and we're going to make sure that they, in fact, and if they want to deal with us, they have to deal with it in a way where human rights abuses are dealt with.
US President Joe Biden has imposed sanctions on a senior aide to the prince, as well as others who it said have played a role in Khashoggi's death. Armenian opposition protesters calling for the Prime Minister's resignation have stormed a government building in the capital, Yerevan. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has faced protests after losing last year's bloody conflict with Azerbaijan over the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh that has killed thousands and has seen broad areas of territory ceded. Over 15,000 people have descended to the capital over the weekend to demand Mr. Pashinyan's resignation. Ivory Coast has started its COVID-19 vaccination campaign in the first national rollout of the UN-backed COVAX program. A plane carrying 504,000 doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine arrived in the country, and healthcare workers in the city of Abidjan will be the first to be inoculated. The COVAX program is the biggest vaccine procurement plan in human history, designed to distribute 2 billion doses by the end of this year. And finally, dancers and musicians of the Stuttgart Ballet have been taking the phrase social distancing bubbles quite literally. The artists have been performing inside these PVC bubbles to perform for German photographer Florian Menhert in a project called Social Distance Stacks. Since the air-filled bubbles are hermetic, Mr. Menhert has only a window of about 10 to 15 minutes to capture the perfect shots. The project hopes to highlight the impact of social distancing during the pandemic and the isolation that affects us all. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Hello and welcome to Sports News. We begin with football. MFMFC claimed a 5th league win against Nasarawa United in 7 meetings this evening in match day 13 clash at the Agege Stadium in Lagos. Elijah Akoni's 52-minute goal made the difference in a tight clash. The win is MFMFC's 4th of the season from 13 games, and they've picked up 17 points so far to move 9th on the table. Nasarawa United dropped to 6th with 20 points from 13 games. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has dismissed suggestions that his club are the best in Europe, despite the EPL leaders being on a 20-game winning streak in all competitions. Guardiola insists the club has to ensure they win titles before they can label themselves as the best club in Europe. And away from football, Olympic champion sprinter Johan Blake of Jamaica says he would rather miss the Tokyo Games than get the COVID vaccine, although getting vaccinated will not be required of the athletes competing there this summer. Blake, a one-time rival of Jamaican great Usain Bolt, will likely still be able to participate in what is expected to be the 31-year-old's 3rd and final game, even if he does not get the vaccine. The IOC has said getting the vaccine is encouraged, but not compulsory for athletes. And that's it on Sports News. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Lumide. And the main news again. The federal government today launched the COVID-19 vaccination strategy and electronic data management system ahead of the delivery of the first batch of COVAX AstraZeneca vaccine. The federal government also noted that health workers will be the first beneficiaries when inoculation begins. That's the news at 10 to 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.